My brother knocked up my wife while carrying his kid. My dad gave them the business I built like it was nothing, so I let it crash and built one they'll never reach. Now, after he ruined everything, they are begging for my help. Hey everyone! Before we jump into today's video, I need your help. We've noticed the channel is losing some traction, and subscribing is one of the best ways you can support us. It's quick, free, and it helps us keep bringing you awesome content. Your support means the world. Let's keep this channel growing together. Thanks so much. Now let's start the video. Hey, I've been debating whether to post this for a while. Not really looking for advice or anything. Just feels like I need to put it somewhere, and maybe someone's been through something similar. I'm not a writer or anything, so sorry if this gets a bit long or messy. Just trying to explain it the way it happened. So, 34 male. I was married to Hannah, 32 female, for 6 years. Together for a bit longer than that. We had a pretty normal life, or so I thought. Small apartment in the suburbs, decent jobs, weekend grocery runs, fighting over where to order takeout from, watching crime shows until one of us fell asleep. That kind of thing. It wasn't always exciting, but it felt stable, comfortable. You don't really expect things to blow up when everything seems steady. I worked for my dad's logistics company for most of my adult life, not as just another employee. I was the one that made things actually function. I handled the books, set up the online systems, dealt with all the accounting and invoicing. I even got us our first major contract. Without me, the company wouldn't be what it was. I don't say that to brag. It's just facts. Then there's Jason, my younger brother. He's 28, and he's always been the golden boy. He once borrowed my truck to help a friend move, told me it'd be back by noon. Came back 3 days later, dented, low on gas, and reeking like it hosted a circus. Didn't apologize, just said, "Stuff happens." I covered for him. Told Dad it was my fault for not laying ground rules. That's who I was, the guy always fixing his mess. Should have seen it coming. You know the type. Doesn't take anything seriously. Messes around. Fails upward somehow. He's good at talking. Has that smile that makes people let things slide. My dad gave him more second chances than I can count. I always figured, hey, whatever. He's my brother, right? He'll grow up eventually. Anyway, about a year ago, Hannah told me she was pregnant. I was shocked, but in a good way. We'd talked about it before, but we weren't actively trying or anything. Still, once she said it, I was excited. I pictured the usual stuff. Setting up a nursery, baby-proofing the apartment, reading dad tips online like an idiot. I even bought a tiny beanie for the kid because it was on sale and I thought it looked cute. But after the first couple weeks, things just started to shift. She wasn't acting how I expected. I figured she'd be more excited. But instead, she got distant, cold, hard to read. I'd ask her how she was feeling and she'd just say, "Fine." I'd try to help out around the house more, and she'd act like I was annoying her. I assumed it was hormones or pregnancy stress and didn't want to make it about me, so I brushed it off. Then the phone thing started. She used to leave her phone lying around without thinking twice. Now it was like an extension of her hand, always face down. Notifications silenced. Taking calls in the other room. And when Jason came around, which started happening more often, I noticed something strange between them. Not anything obvious, just tension. The kind that makes you uncomfortable even though nothing is technically wrong. It got in my head. I'd be lying if I said it didn't. I didn't want to believe anything bad was happening, but the feeling wouldn't go away. One night, I must have sat on that porch for a solid 20 minutes, just staring at the street. My mind was blank, but buzzing at the same time. Then I realized her iPad was on the coffee table inside. Same iCloud account. I went back in, quiet, like I didn't want to alert suspicion even though I wasn't even doing anything wrong, just confirming what was already hitting me like a truck. Please be nothing. Please just be work emails or dumb Pinterest boards. It wasn't. Open the iPad. Messages were synced. There were photos. Not those kinds of photos, but ones that still gut-punched me. A selfie of her and Jason at a coffee shop I didn't even know she liked. Another one at the park. That stupid duck pond where I took her on our second date. She looked happy in them. Relaxed. That goofy smile she always said she only made around me? Yeah, there it was. Aimed at Jason like he invented air. And then a screenshot of a flight confirmation. 2 seats. Same destination we'd been saving up for the past year. Except it was for a long weekend in November. And I wasn't invited. Just her. And Jason. When she came out of the shower, I didn't say anything. I kept quiet for 2 days. Just observing. Thinking. Watching how she acted. She kissed me goodnight like nothing was wrong. Made her tea in the morning. Smiled at me like she wasn't sleeping with my brother. After sitting on it for a couple more days, I finally said something. We were sitting on the couch, watching TV. I muted the show and looked at her. I think we should do a DNA test once the baby's born, I said. She went dead silent for about 3 seconds. You know that silence? That eerie, TV mute, storms coming silence? Yeah. Then she exploded. How dare you accuse me? She screamed, like I just accused her of plotting world domination. Do you seriously think I'd lie to you? While I'm pregnant? With your child? I opened my mouth to respond, but nope, she was on a roll. You don't trust me. That's what this is. You're trying to control me, and I'm done pretending this is normal. This is not okay. She started pacing, like she was building momentum. I've been throwing up every morning, dragging myself to those awful appointments, feeling like crap every single day. And this is how you treat me. At this point, her voice was bouncing off the walls like an old-school pinball machine. You're basically calling me a liar, a cheater, a fraud. You know what? I'm starting to think you're the one with issues. You're paranoid. You're a freak about this stuff. You sit and stew in your own thoughts until you invent some fantasy where I'm the villain and you're this poor betrayed guy. And then she dropped what she thought was her mic moment. You just ruined this pregnancy for me. This was supposed to be a happy time. And now look at what you've done. Congratulations. You broke it. I stayed calm the whole time. When she finally paused to catch her breath, I said, if there's nothing, then what's the issue with doing a simple test? She just looked at me, stunned again, then stormed off into the bedroom. Didn't talk to me for the rest of the night. After that, things got worse. She didn't yell anymore. She just avoided. Every time I brought it up, she'd say, not this again, or why are you so obsessed with this? And then shut it down. She refused to even acknowledge Jason's name. At one point, she told me, I don't even like your brother. And I swear I almost laughed. Then, about a week later, I came home early from work. I wasn't trying to catch anything. I had a bad headache and decided to just skip the afternoon. Took the side door in, walked through the garage. That's when I heard her in the living room. She was on the phone, on speaker. She didn't hear me come in. She was pacing, talking fast, didn't notice I was standing around the corner near the stairs. She said, Mike's asking for a paternity test. He's doubting us. Then Jason's voice, crap, did you say anything? Hannah said, I panicked. I didn't know what to say. What do we do if he actually makes me take it? Jason said, he's just bluffing. Don't worry about it. Just keep acting normal. My whole chest tightened. I didn't make a sound. I backed up slowly, went out the same way I came in. I drove around for a while after that. Didn't even know where I was going. Just kept turning onto random roads until it got dark. I slept in the car that night. Didn't want to see her. Didn't want to talk. I didn't have a plan yet. But I knew I wasn't going to pretend anymore. And I definitely wasn't going to protect them. So I called Jason and told him to meet me. I didn't want to wait for a lab result to tell me what I already felt in my bones. I wanted to hear it from him, the guy who used to be my brother. So I called him up, told him to meet me near the old auto shop on Creekside. Neutral ground. Quiet, out of the way. He showed up late, wearing sunglasses like we were in some bad spy movie. I was leaning against my car, arms crossed, eyes locked on him the moment he stepped out. What's going on? He asked, trying way too hard to sound casual. You tell me. I nodded toward the bench. We both sat. Awkward silence for a second. Then I said it. What the hell are you doing sneaking around with Hannah? His face twitched. Not fear. Guilt. The kind you don't fake. We're just friends, man. He scratched the back of his neck. Classic Jason move. She's been struggling. I've been there. That's it. Coffee shop across town. The duck pond. The flight in November. I hit him with everything. One by one. That's your idea of helping? He went quiet. Real quiet. You slept with her, didn't you? I didn't need him to say it, but I wanted to hear it. He didn't look at me when he said, it was a mistake. I clenched my jaw. Sat there still as stone. You know she's pregnant, I said, voice flat. He flinched. So I'll ask you straight. Is it yours? More silence. Then he let out a breath like it weighed 10 pounds. I think so. You think? She told me it might be. And you didn't feel the need to tell me that earlier? He shook his head. I didn't know what to do, Mike. I didn't plan any of this. You just showed up, smiled, acted innocent, and kept your brother's wife while shaking his hand at dinner. He looked like he was going to cry, but I didn't care. I stood up. You're going to keep pretending this is something you tripped into? Like it was bad weather or an accident? He said nothing. You're a coward, Jason. And now you're going to be a dad to a kid you made while wrecking your own brother's life. Still nothing. Just sat there, shrinking by the second. Thanks for the confirmation, I said, and walked off. That was all I needed. I didn't yell, didn't throw a punch. I wanted truth. And I got it. There was a family event coming up, my dad's birthday. Big thing. Everyone shows up. Friends, relatives, people I haven't seen since dial-up internet. I usually dreaded those things. Too many fake hugs, too much small talk. But this time, I was actually looking forward to it. I don't know, maybe I was finally feeling good about where I stood, ready to show up and not feel like the background character in my own family. Like maybe, for once, I wasn't walking into a setup. But that peace? It didn't last long. I overheard the phone call, and man, everything flipped right there. Not in a crazy rage way, more like a switch got hit and everything just went cold. I didn't even feel angry anymore. Just done. I didn't confront her after that. I didn't slam doors or throw accusations around. I acted like everything was fine. That was probably the weirdest part. Pretending. Like I hadn't heard her say, "What do we do?" So I figured, what better time? If they wanted to lie to my face and act like nothing was going on, then I was going to make sure everyone got to hear the truth, and not through whispers or private messages. I wanted to say it once, clear and direct, in front of every person they cared about. So I stayed chill for the next few days. Hannah kept doing her thing, acting like nothing was wrong. She was texting a lot, glued to her phone, taking random calls outside again. I stopped asking questions. I stopped trying to have the talk. Every time she looked at me, I think she knew something had changed, but I think she convinced herself I had let it go. That's what guilt does sometimes. It makes people believe they're getting away with it because you're quiet. Jason texted me the day before the dinner asking if I'd be coming. I told him I wouldn't miss it. He sent back a thumbs up emoji. I didn't reply. Saturday came, and we drove to my parents' place together. I didn't say much. She didn't notice, or maybe she didn't want to. When we got there, everyone was there early because my mom made her famous lasagna. Jason was already there, of course. He walked up, gave me a pat on the back like he wasn't sneaking around with my wife. I gave him a look and he flinched just a little. Dinner started around 7. I sat at the far end of the table, right next to Hannah. Jason was a few seats down. My dad was at the head, smiling wide, making jokes like usual. Then it was my turn. I stood up slowly, took my time. My family quieted down like they always do when someone stands to speak. I looked at my dad first. "Happy birthday," I said. "Thanks for everything you've done. For the company. For raising us." He nodded and smiled, raised his glass. Then I turned to the rest of the table. "And since this is a family event," I said, "I just wanted to share some news." My family got quiet again. Someone joked, "Don't tell me you're moving." I ignored that. I looked right at Hannah. She froze, fork halfway to her mouth. Then I turned toward Jason, who suddenly had the fakest smile I'd ever seen. So when I stood up in front of everyone and said, "She's pregnant, but not with my child. She's pregnant with his." I wasn't guessing. I knew. And the best part? They did too. Jason's face went ghost white. Hannah looked like the floor opened beneath her. No one clapped. No one defended. Just silence. The kind that stings worse than words. Every single person went dead silent. I didn't yell. I didn't point. I just said it like a fact. Because it was. Jason's mouth opened, but no words came out. Hannah dropped her fork. My mom gasped. My dad stood up halfway, like he didn't know whether to sit back down or stop me. I looked back at my dad and said, "Thought you should know who your future heir really is." And then I sat down. I didn't wait for a reaction. I didn't stick around for the aftermath. I got up, walked into the house, grabbed my keys off the counter, and left, quietly. I found out later from my cousin that the dinner fell apart within minutes. My mom burst into tears. Jason tried to deny it, even called me paranoid. But Hannah didn't say a word, just sat there frozen, like a statue with a guilt complex. My dad ended the night early and told everyone to go home. No one clapped, no one defended them. That silence I walked away from. It followed them around like a shadow. I could still hear the shouting starting behind me as I pulled out of the driveway. That night, I drove around again, parked at this small rest area by the lake, just sat there for a while. I don't even remember what I was thinking. My brain was just blank. I wasn't even sad. It felt like I had finally finished something, like closing a book you should have stopped reading months ago. With that behind me, I drove home the next morning. When I walked in, she was already up, sitting at the table, drinking her tea like she did every morning. She didn't look shocked to see me. She didn't even look nervous. She just looked tired. That's the only way I can describe it. I dropped my keys on the counter and stood there for a second. I didn't know where to start. She finally said something first. "So, you really had to do that last night?" I let out a short laugh. Not a real one, just the kind that slips out when someone says something ridiculous. "You serious?" I said. She looked at me for the first time. You embarrassed me, in front of your whole family. I shook my head. No, Hannah, you did that. I just stopped covering for you. She rolled her eyes. We could have talked in private. We did, I said. I asked for the test. You flipped. I asked you again, calmly, and you acted like I was insane. She went quiet again, just stared into her mug like it had answers at the bottom. I walked over and sat down across from her. I saw the photos, Hannah. You and him at that coffee place. At the park. Our duck pond. The one I took you to when we first started dating. You looked happy in those. Way happier than you've looked with me lately. That smile you said was just for me? Guess you lent it out. I paused, then added, and the flight confirmation. 2 tickets. Same trip we were saving up for. The one I thought we'd finally take together. Except you're going with him. November, right? Long weekend getaway? Just you and your upgrade. She didn't flinch, just sipped her tea like she was getting through something mildly inconvenient. I stepped back, shaking my head. You were gonna let me pay the bills while you packed your bag for him. That wasn't confusion, Hannah. That was commitment. So tell me, what was the end game? Keep me around for stability while you played house with my brother on the side? Or were you hoping I'd stay blind just long enough to help you pack your toothbrush? She finally looked at me, not guilty, not teary, just tired, like I was the one being unreasonable. It's not that simple, she said. No? Enlighten me. She set the mug down and shrugged. You were always busy, always working, always stressed. Jason, he's just easier. He listens. He makes me feel seen. I blinked. So that's it. He makes you feel seen and suddenly vows don't matter? She folded her arms. You think being reliable is enough? You show up, pay bills, do what you think a good guy should do, but you're never really here. You don't talk. You don't notice things. He does. I let out a small laugh, the kind that has zero humor in it. So you sleep with my brother because he's got better conversation skills? She didn't even flinch. It's more than that. He makes me feel wanted, like I matter. You were just stuck in routine. Jason's not afraid to take risks. He lives. I stared at her. You mean he's irresponsible, reckless? The same guy who crashed my truck, ghosted his last job, and can't hold a relationship for more than 6 months. That's your standard now? She looked down at the table. He made me feel something. You made me feel stuck. I leaned back in the chair, stared at the ceiling for a second, then locked eyes with her again. You made your choice, Hannah. You texted him while I was asleep next to you. Over and over. You planned trips with him using the money I earned. You didn't just trip and fall into this. You built it. Brick by brick. She didn't deny it, just kept sitting there. Is it his kid? I asked, flat. She hesitated, then said, I don't know. That one landed. I felt it, even though I already knew. I ran a hand down my face, voice low. I built a future around this. Around you. I worked extra hours so we'd have savings for the baby. I read reviews on strollers at 1 a.m. I gave everything I had to make this life work. She looked up but didn't say a word. You didn't fall for him, Hannah. You settled for him because he was around. Because he made you feel important while I was busy doing the work that kept everything from falling apart. She said nothing. That was maybe the worst part. There was no big excuse, no fight, no regret. Just a woman who chose chaos because it gave her attention. I stood up. No need to drag it out any longer. Congrats, I said, grabbing my bag. You traded up to a guy who makes you feel alive. Let's see how that works out once the diapers start piling up. I didn't wait for a reply. She didn't offer one. I stood up, grabbed my duffel bag from behind the door where I left it the other day. Started tossing clothes in, not even folding them. Just enough to get by for a couple weeks. She watched me, but didn't stop me. Where are you going? She asked. Somewhere that isn't here. She sniffed a little, like she wanted to cry, but nothing came out. I paused at the door. I meant it when I said I wanted a test, I told her. You're gonna do it. You're not gonna ghost me on that. I deserve to know. She nodded without looking at me. Okay. I walked out and didn't look back. Not long after. I ended up at my friend's place. He's one of those people who doesn't push. He saw my face when I showed up at his door, handed me the spare key without asking anything, and just said, Couch is yours. Fridge has leftovers. Wi-Fi's on the note. That's it. Exactly what I needed. I spent the first couple days just lying there, not really doing anything. I wasn't angry. It was more like my brain was on airplane mode. The silence felt better than talking anyway. I ignored my phone most of the time. I didn't want to see texts from Hannah. I didn't want to hear from Jason. I didn't even want to talk to my mom, and we're usually close. But my dad kept calling. Same time every day. Didn't say much in the voicemails, just, call me when you can. I finally picked up on the 4th day. mostly to stop the calls. He didn't waste time with small talk, just said, "You coming by the house?" Like everything was fine. I said, "Probably not." He paused, then said, "We need to talk, just us." I could tell from his tone he wasn't calling to check in on me. So I went, not because I wanted to hear his side, but because I needed to say mine, clearly and directly. He was in his usual chair when I walked in, reading over some paperwork like nothing had happened. I sat down across from him, didn't say anything. He looked up, nodded like I'd just walked in late from a shift. No tension, no shame. Just straight to business. Then he said, "I think you need to let this go." I kept waiting for him to say, "But I'm disappointed in both of them." He never did. My first thought was, "Let what go?" I didn't even respond right away because I wanted to make sure I heard him right. He continued, "There's a baby involved, and maybe things happened the wrong way, but you can't undo that now." I just blinked. I couldn't believe that was the first thing out of his mouth. He went on like he had this whole thing figured out in his head. Jason wants to do the right thing now. He's ready to step up. Maybe it's time to let him and Hannah be together, build something new, give the baby a proper family. I actually let out this dry laugh. Not because it was funny, but because I was stunned at how detached he sounded. Like we were negotiating office chairs or something, not talking about my wife cheating on me with my brother. I said, "You're serious?" And he nodded like, "Yeah, this was the logical next step." I leaned back, ran my hand over my face, and just stared at the ceiling for a second. I told him, "That's the guy you want to pass everything down to? The guy who slept with my wife behind my back and then didn't even have the balls to admit it until I exposed it at your birthday?" My dad didn't budge. He knows he messed up, but he's still your brother. He wants to make things right. That's when I realized he wasn't going to pick sides. He wasn't even going to pretend he was disappointed. He just wanted to patch it up and move on, for the sake of appearances, for the sake of the business, for family. Then came the part that really sealed it. He said, "You also need to think about the company. Clients notice things. People talk. This could hurt the business if we're not careful." I leaned forward and said, "You think clients care about family drama? They care about who gets the job done. And that's never been Jason." He looked like he wanted to argue, but he didn't. He knew I was right. All this time, I thought I was working for something real. Turns out I was just patching holes in a sinking ship. That's when I realized I wasn't angry anymore. I didn't need him to back me up. I didn't need anyone in that house to get it. They chose who they were. Now I was choosing who I'd be. I couldn't believe what I was hearing. That's what he was worried about. The image, not the betrayal. I looked at him, flat out, and said, "I'm selling my shares." His eyes widened. "What?" I repeated it, clearer this time. "I'm done. I'll talk to a lawyer. You can give Jason the keys. I want no part of this anymore. Not the company, not the family dinners, not the lies." He didn't say anything for a long minute, just looked at me like I'd said something offensive. Maybe to him I had. I don't really care, so I left. Just like that. I followed through too. Found a lawyer, told them I wanted to get out clean. Didn't care if I lost a little money in the process. I just didn't want to be tied to it anymore. The lawyer was confused at first, kept asking if I was sure. I said I was. In the middle of all that, Jason texted me. Once. Just a plain message. "Can we talk?" I didn't reply. A couple days later, he tried again. "I didn't mean for things to go that far. I never wanted to hurt you." I stared at it for a bit, then locked my phone and didn't answer. There's no version of that conversation that ends with me feeling better, so what's the point? Hannah messaged me too, about a week after, said, "I know I ruined everything. I'm sorry. I don't expect you to forgive me." It didn't even make me angry. I just read it once, left it there. Some people think closure comes from a long talk and crying it out. For me, it was just silence. Not answering felt like the best thing I could have done. I didn't need her explanations. I'd already heard enough. Jason ended up running the business. Not officially, but my dad let him take over the day-to-day stuff. At first, I didn't care. Then I started hearing things through mutual contacts. Missed payments, clients walking away, drivers quitting. Word was spreading. Things weren't being handled right. Schedules were off. Mistakes were happening. I didn't cheer. I wasn't happy about it. But I wasn't sorry either. You can't run something you never respected in the first place. That company meant something to me because I helped build it. For Jason, it was just handed over. Then the call came. My dad. Middle of the week, middle of the day. No small talk, just, "You free to talk about the company?" I just sat there for a second, staring at the screen. Then I picked up. He didn't waste time. "Things are a mess. Jason's trying, but it's not working. I think we both know he's not built for this. We're bleeding clients. I need help. I didn't say anything right away. I let that hang for a second. Help with what? Picking up the pieces? He sighed. You know how this business runs. You always did. I shouldn't have let things go the way they did. That part almost made me laugh. You mean letting your golden boy run it into the ground while you pretended nothing was wrong? He didn't argue, just said, I'm asking you, not as your father, but as someone who knows what this company really needs. I let that sit a bit longer. Then I said, I'm not coming back to fix what he broke. I warned you. You made your choice. He said, so that's it? Number, that's just the consequence, I told him. I ended the call without yelling, without emotion, just the truth. I meant it when I walked away, and I wasn't going to be their emergency exit now that things weren't going their way. I moved, rented a small apartment in a different city, found work doing consulting for logistics firms. Not glamorous, but quiet. No office politics, no family drama, just work and peace. And that peace? Man, it felt better than anything I'd felt in years. By then, I didn't block them. I wanted that door closed, not locked. I guess part of me still wanted to know if they'd sink or swim. Not that I cared, but it's like when you walk away from a burning building. You don't want to be near it, but you still glance over your shoulder to see if it collapses. Jason tried one more time, texted me out of nowhere. I know I don't deserve it, but if you ever want to talk, I'm here. I didn't reply. I didn't even finish reading the preview in the notification. I swiped it away like junk mail. That was the last time I heard from him. But Hannah? She came back around in a way I didn't expect. It was a Thursday, late afternoon. I was in the middle of a client call when I saw her name pop up on my phone. I ignored it, obviously, but she left a voicemail, something she hadn't done the last few times. Later that night, I listened to it, just out of curiosity, I guess. Her voice was shaky. Hey, I'm not asking for anything. I just wanted you to know that Jason left. He's gone. I'm alone with the baby. I made a mistake. I know that now. You didn't deserve any of it. I wish I saw things clearly back then. Click. I sat there staring at my phone. The baby. Right. I hadn't thought about the DNA test in weeks. I never got the result. I told her to do it. She nodded. Then silence. Nothing after that. Part of me thought she never went through with it. That maybe she was just going to pretend I didn't exist, raise the baby and hope I didn't follow up. But now? Now she wanted to talk. That night I couldn't sleep. Not because of her voicemail, but because of what it probably meant. Jason bailed. Classic. Dude couldn't even handle a 9 to 5, let alone fatherhood. Of course he left. And now she was sitting in the ruins of what they built on lies. Still, I didn't respond. I had nothing to say. I wasn't her rescue plan. A few days later, I got an envelope in the mail. No return address, just my name handwritten across the front. Inside was a printed page. A DNA test result. I don't know if she sent it or maybe one of her friends who felt bad. But there it was in black and white. The child was Jason's. 99.98% match. I stared at that number for a long time. Not because I was surprised, but because it was now real. It wasn't a hunch anymore. It was fact. All the times I thought maybe I was overthinking. Maybe I was being paranoid. All of it gone. I wasn't the father. I sat with that thought for a while. It wasn't grief or loss or even anger. It was just final. Like the last puzzle piece snapped in. And then, something wild happened. I got a call from an old client, one of our biggest back at the family business. The guy who gave us our first big break years ago, when no one else would take a chance on us. He told me he tracked me down through a mutual connection and asked if I was still consulting. I said I was. He goes, good, because we pulled our contract from your dad's company. Too messy over there. But I liked working with you. You made things work. I want to move it all under your name, if you're interested. I almost dropped the phone. That contract was huge. It could be the foundation of something real. Not just freelance jobs and invoices, an actual business of my own. And just like that, something clicked in me. Maybe this whole thing didn't just blow up for nothing. Maybe it was supposed to happen. Maybe walking away was the first right move I'd made in a long time. I said yes. We scheduled a meeting. And now I'm building again. Slowly, carefully. Not for anyone else. Not for legacy or image or proving a point. Just for me. But here's the thing. That wasn't the last time I heard from Hannah. Last week she showed up. In person. Yeah, I know. Wild. I opened the door and there she was. Same tired eyes, holding the baby on her hip, standing like she wasn't sure what she was even doing there. She said, "Can I talk to you? Just for a minute?" I didn't answer. What did I do? Nothing. Just stood there, staring at her. She shifted the baby in her arms and gave me this look. The kind of look people give when they know they're not going to win. but they still want to try anyway. Can I talk to you? Just for a minute? She said. I stepped out, closed the door behind me. I leaned against the porch railing. Then why are you here, Hannah? She looked down at the baby, like he was going to give her the right words. He doesn't have anyone else, she said finally. Jason's gone, moved out of state, blocked me on everything. My job cut my hours. It's been hard, and I guess I just thought you should know that I've had time to think about everything. I didn't say anything. I wasn't going to make it easy for her. She could ramble if she wanted. I'd wait. She kept going. You were right. About the test. About him. About all of it. I thought Jason was going to step up. But the second things got real, he bailed. I thought I was getting this exciting life. And instead, I got bills and silence. She looked up, tears already forming. You were always solid. You showed up. I just didn't see it then. That's when I finally spoke. Yeah, you didn't. And that was all I said for a minute. I let it sit. She wiped her face with her sleeve. I'm not asking you for anything. I'm not expecting anything. I don't know. Maybe I just needed to see you. Maybe I needed you to see him. She tilted the baby toward me like that was supposed to mean something. I didn't move. He's your nephew, she added. I just shook my head slowly. He's Jason's son, and you made your choices. She looked down again. I've been rebuilding my life, I told her. You and Jason tore everything down. I didn't ask for that. I didn't deserve it. But I took it, and I built something better. She looked like she was about to say something else, but I cut her off. Not harsh, just direct. You showed up for closure, but I got mine a long time ago. Then I turned, opened the door, and went back inside. Didn't slam it, didn't lock it, just closed it and left her on the porch. She stood there for maybe another minute, probably hoping I'd change my mind. I didn't. Eventually, she walked back to her car and drove off. And that was that. It's been a few months since then. I haven't heard from her or Jason. No texts, no random pop-ups, nothing. The consulting gig I landed with that old client, it turned into something bigger. I now run my own small firm. Lean but tight. 5 people under me. Steady contracts, no dead weight. We do things by the book. We don't overpromise and we actually deliver. Clients like that. Turns out honesty and consistency still matter in this world. Funny thing, one of the drivers from my dad's company hit me up last week. Told me the old place is barely hanging on. Contracts dried up. My dad's health is shaky. Jason's name is poison in the industry now. He got a job at some warehouse out of town. Guess his charm wore off when people actually expected results. I didn't laugh. I didn't celebrate. I just nodded. That's karma. It's not loud. It doesn't show up with a warning. It just takes its time and hits where it hurts. Reputation, money, pride, and it always hits eventually. I never got revenge. Didn't destroy anyone. Didn't drag names through the mud. I just told the truth. I walked away, and I built a better life while they tried to piece together the one they shattered. Now I get up in the morning, make my own coffee, answer to no one. I don't flinch when my phone rings. I don't second-guess texts. I don't wonder what's being said behind my back. Peace is loud when you used to live with chaos. And honestly, the best revenge wasn't finding someone new, or flexing on social media, or proving anything to anybody. It was just being better. Better off. Better alone. Better than them.